Hi church, hope this video finds you well. So I wanted to share with you a little bit of how Sunday school is going for the youth. So we have been following the Bible Project series on YouTube called How to Read the Bible, and it's very fun. It's this series where we kind of go through the different literary structures of the Bible and learn how to read the Bible and how to interpret things that Jesus taught and how the Old Testament books were written versus how the New Testament books were written. It's very fascinating. I really encourage you to go look it up. It's on YouTube called the Bible Project. But this last week, the youth and I talked about how to read the parables, Jesus's parables. And in order to understand how to read the parables, it's important to understand really what parables are. But it's pretty simple. Parables are stories. They are stories Jesus told in order to teach the people about how to live, how to live and interact with people around them, how to serve God, how to love each other, how to love the church, how to love the society around them, etc., etc. So when we were talking about the parables, I was doing some research and I just went through the Bible, and I just wanted to read as many of Jesus's parables as I could to see if I could find like a common thread. And really the biggest thing that I learned is that Jesus taught in stories a lot. And I think that he did that for a reason, because the beautiful thing about stories is that it takes almost like the lesson away from what Jesus is talking about, and it becomes this thing that Jesus kind of puts out there, and he says, okay, well, instead of me telling you what I want you to do, I'm going to tell this story so that you, individual, can hear this story and interpret whatever lesson or meaning that you need that day or that season. And I think that that's really a very clever thing that Jesus did. And so when I was preparing for this lesson to teach the kids about parables, I read in Matthew 22, the story of the wedding banquet. And this, I had completely forgotten about this parable. So I was really excited to read it. And there are a couple things that I kind of learned about myself and about the ministry that I am directing. And I hope that after I read this, that you can kind of think of ways that you could interpret this for your own life. And I'll share mine with you at the end. But first I want to read it to you. So this is from Matthew 22, the story of the wedding banquet. And I'll be reading from The Message, which is my favorite interpretation of the Bible, by the way. I love it so much. Okay, so it goes like this. God's kingdom, he said, this is Jesus talking, God's kingdom is like a king who threw a wedding banquet for his son. He sent out servants to call all the invited guests. And they wouldn't come. He sent out another round of servants, instructing them to tell the guests, look, everyone is at the table. The prime rib is ready for carving. Come to the feast. They only shrugged their shoulders and went off, one to weed his garden, another to work in his shop. The rest, with nothing better to do, beat up on the messengers and then killed them. The king was outraged and sent his soldiers to destroy those thugs and level their city. Then he told the servants, we have a wedding banquet all prepared, but no guests. The ones I invited weren't up to it. Go out into the busiest intersections in town and invite anyone you find to the banquet. The servants went out on the streets and rounded up everyone they laid eyes on, good and bad, regardless. And so the banquet was on, every place filled. When the king entered and looked over the scene, he spotted a man who wasn't properly dressed. He said to him, friend, how dare you come in here looking like that? The man was speechless. Then the king told his servants, get out of here, fast. Tie him up and ship him to hell, and make sure he doesn't get back in. That's what I mean, Jesus. That's what I mean when I say many get invited, only a few make it. So there are a couple things that I kind of get from this parable. The first reading, when I first read this, my first thought was, well, I mean, yeah, this father who's managing this wedding for his son, he's being silly, right? Like, why would you invite people to a wedding because you're desperate for people to come to your feast, and then you kick them out and condemn them to hell when they're not properly dressed? like, that makes no sense to me. What a silly thing to think about. But it makes sense in the culture and the context, right, blah, 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 blah. But the other thing that I kind of gleaned from this, the second time that I read it, was the point that Jesus makes at the end. He says, many get invited, only a few make it. And I wonder what that could mean for us as Christians. I'm thinking about it in kind of a broader context as, you know, we live in America where Christianity is one of the most dominant religions. So there's a whole nation of people who get invited to join Jesus in heaven, but only a few make it. So what does that mean? Does that mean that just people who go to church every Sunday make it? Does that mean that only people who accept Jesus into their heart and follow him with everything that they are make it? I don't know. And that's the thing, is that I don't think that Jesus meant to condemn some Christians and raise up other Christians, or condemn some people in general and not condemn other people in general. I think what he meant was we all have an invitation to serve the Lord. We all have an invitation to love one another on a daily basis. We all have the opportunity to choose to do good and to seek peace and to love justice. But not everybody does that every day. You know why? Because it takes a lot of effort. So I encourage you to go back and read this parable. It's in Matthew 22, like I said, and see what you can get. See what lesson you can glean from this story that Jesus told. And then think about that for a while. Maybe let me know the next time you see me. Okay, that's all from me. Have a good day, and I'll see you later. Bye.